Charlie Otley. We have seen you as a writer, producer, journalist, poet, author, but I also saw you harvesting potatoes, singing, riding horses and motorbikes, swimming across the Danube, paddling, painting Easter eggs, cooking, playing the harmonica, designing your home, dancing, even delivering a calf. I think you are a ciorba, and after Ciorba Rădăuțeană, you are the second best ciorba in Romania. Charlie, is there something you can't do?
I always describe myself as a jack of all trades and a master of none. I think that in life, never say no until you've tried something. You know, there's lots of exciting things to do out there.
Lost you?
You know, jump off a cliff into a lake. You know, do things that we all do when we're kids, and we learn that love of knowledge and finding things out. And I think it's very important. And as a presenter, it's something that I want to kind of take forward, because it's all about immersing yourself in the experience. And for me, you know, Romania is the most incredible experience. So I wanted to feel fully immersed in the country. So of course, I've tried and done everything I could.
You definitely have been immersed. You are one of us now. Do you have a top 5 attractions? Do you have a top 5 attractions foreigners shouldn't miss if they decided to visit Romania?
Well, if I list 5 places, people, and you know, other places that are equally beautiful. So it's very subjective. Obviously, I mean, you know, I love it here because I've risked my partner Juana, and we live on the edge of Piatra Craiului, and I love the Buceci Mountains, so that would have to count as one. On this recent trip, because we discovered new places on the previous trip, so I would say highlights for me on season 2 of Flavors of Romania, because there are lots of other places I've already visited, but to confine myself to places I didn't know about, I would say Oltenia is an amazing place. I didn't realize that southern section of the Carpathian Mountains had so much to offer. That was beautiful. Cara-Severin as a county is very beautiful. I really enjoyed our drive through there and seeing the villages and the landscapes that looked, you know, reminded me of in places of England and in the South Downs and sort of the countryside there, and the most beautiful, least spoiled parts of the English countryside. I think, you know, I discovered new parts of the Maramureș. The Creasta Cocoșului was stunning. I like mountains. I mean, I like elevation, views, panoramas. So again, the 12 Apostles was a stunning experience for me. And then, you know, there's always the same places that we know about, like the Painted Monasteries and Palas Castle and all those well-trodden paths. But the whole idea is to try to show people that Romania is not just about those places. There's equally incredible locations and destinations right across the country in every historic region.
You've stated that it was probably the last series about Romania, and your intention is to produce flavors about other countries like Armenia. But for the first time, the Romanian Ministry of Tourism came with an offer for you to promote Romania as an all-year-round destination, 8 new films again. So can you tell us more about this partnership, and have you changed your mind?
Well, that might be 9 films, because I've done an extra one that doesn't fit into the remit of the categories that we discussed with the ministry, but I think it's very important, and they seem to like it. So I've created an extra film which I'm donating. But yeah, these 8 films will be again looking at the unique selling points that Romania has to offer. I've always described Romania as a ciorba, like you mentioned about me earlier, and I think every country is a ciorba. Every country is a series of different ingredients combined in different measures to create an overall impression. Some countries lead more with architecture, other countries lead more with forest or with mountains or with culture. You know, the different places you visit, like for example, Italy, 'Italy' 'has a lot of 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 '
the connection? The internet is poor?
We can't compete just on those. I'm sorry, the internet's bad. This is it should be okay, but yeah, for me, Romania's biggest attraction is its wilderness and its wild spaces, and we have the largest mixed forests left in Europe, and we have 2/3 of the apex predators in Europe. We have the greatest biodiversity in Europe. So these are things that other countries don't have. And they don't have in nearly such abundance. So I think actually the wild corner of Europe, some people have shot me down for saying that, is one of the things that we need to focus on to attract people to come here. It's an undiscovered paradise of unspoilt landscapes. So this is an important aspect, I think, when promoting Romania. But to go back to your question about whether you know there's another series, I think people have probably seen enough of me now for a while.
No,
We've done 10
we want
episodes,
more.
and the last one is, I'm sure they have. You're being very kind, but the last episode is 2 hours long, over 2 hours long. I couldn't cut any of it. Netflix were very kind to say we can keep it whatever length you want, and I felt that that whole west side of Transylvania had so many important stories, both inspiring stories and amazing destinations, but also issues that we need to address. And that's a key point in Flavors of Romania. It's not just about the good. You know, in a way, it's the good, bad, and the ugly, but we have to tell the truth. And I think that that's an important thing. When we're putting a roadmap for the future of tourism, we need to show the dangers. And people have to understand tourism needs to be done in a certain way here to capitalize on the landscape. We still don't want to come and see them if we don't regulate planning consent, for example, and we just cover beautiful national parks and rural historic landscapes with concrete and cement. You know, we have to sustainably manage things. So, you know, I felt really that we nailed it for me for a while now. And whilst I'm working with the ministry to do this, we're still open to doing promotional films to help Romania, because this is still my home and will continue to be my home. But I also would like to help other countries that are maybe not enjoying the right amount of promotion that they deserve. Lots of people are very negative about Albania. We have in the UK lots of people sort of a dangerous place, and Albanians coming over and claiming asylum. Well, you don't need to claim asylum from Albania. I've been there. We've ridden the motorbike across the mountains there. The people are lovely. It's very nice. They might want, like a lot of Romanians, to come to the UK thinking they're going to get a better life. Not always the case, by the way. But it's a country that is suffering to Russia, and I think cementing connections with the West, where tourists can come there and enjoy escapes like we have in Romania, would be a really positive thing to do to bring, you know, closer relationships between the West and that area. You know, I think that's important. So there's other places we'd like to try to help, but also we're still committed to promoting Romania here, and working with the Ministry of Tourism and working with regional councils to you know, to show the world, whether it's on CNN or BBC World News or whoever, Travel Channel, Discovery, to show the world that Romania is, or should be, the next go-to destination in Europe.
Good. In Chirnia, the most beautiful village in Europe in 2023, you have restored an old house as a nest for yourself and for your amazing partner. Your neighbors are now your adoptive parents. What I loved the most about your home was the way you combined the best of old with the best of new. It looks like a happy place. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're sitting here right now. My editor's just got back, dropped his girlfriend off in Brasov to go back to Bucharest. But they're actually buying a place near us in Shimon, and you know, we work up here. This is our office. And I think that villages like this can have new life breathed into them by companies coming and setting up, and light industry, you know, advertising agencies, you know, people that need to work with computers, PR companies, etc., can actually relocate. I have a very good friend who you might have seen in Haile Saivan, Joe Griomi, who was running Publicis in Bucharest from his eco lodge in Bukovina.
Yeah,
And
I saw
I
you
do,
making pizza there.
that's correct, exactly.
Yeah.
And for many months during COVID, he was running the office from Bukovina. You know, he was up there, not in Bucharest. So I think it can be done, and you know, we wanted to show this is the case as well. So yes, we're in an old house that we've restored, but we also edit from here. We work from here. It's our office, and you know, if more companies relocated to villages and restored old barns and old houses, and preserved obviously the architectural heritage as well by doing so, they would create jobs in these villages, and they'd bring workforces where being people that, you know, would come and work there, and those people have families, and they bring their families out of the big cities and they come back to the villages. And the kids would need to go to establish the local school. I mean, I'm an ambassador now for Booklands, which you probably saw in the Oltenia episode. And they've built over 70, or not built, but restored over 70 rural schools around the country in just under 2 years. This is incredible. I mean, these guys deserve a medal, because, you know, the big issue with education here is that over 70% of kids leaving school are functionally illiterate, which means they can't read and write properly. In England, by the age of 10, they're functionally literate, I think. And that figure is getting worse. It means that, you know, 70% of children leaving school can't read and write properly. Think about that statistic. To get jobs, we need to turn that around. The kids are being forced to go further to bigger schools in larger communities where the classes are much larger. They don't get the individual attention that they need, and it's much harder for them to develop. So I think by, again, bringing people back to the villages, by reigniting the local villages and creating a local economy, that will actually help reestablish the local schools, and that's good for everybody. So, you know, for me, this is the place to be. You know, I mean, I love it here, and we work here, we live here, we have fun here, and it's paradise every time I wake up in the morning and look out at the view. You know,
You're lucky.
I am fortunate.
Yes, from 2010, your first visit in Romania, some things have changed, others haven't so far yet. I know the pace of change is very slow. We still have bad roads, corruption, bad waste management, irresponsible deforestation, incompetent politicians, and lack of strategies. I've done the dirty job. Now it's your turn to tell us the pluses, please.
Well, I mean, these are all issues, as everybody knows, but I think it's also not going to change very fast if we, you know, and I say we, including myself now as a resident of Romania, if we don't actually try to change the general attitude. And there's a malaise in this country where people are so cynical that it stops stuff from being done. We're not proactive. People need to try harder to see the good, and to work and to give something more of themselves. I just look at this, for example. I said this in Flavors season 2. There used to be this tradition of the clacker, or that went on in all the villages around the country, where people would help each other out.
We still have it in Maramureș. We still have it.
Well, we still have it. I know we have it in limited places. That still goes on, but you know, it's not. It's an exception rather than a rule. And it's that mentality of sharing and helping each other out that crosses cultural boundaries and ethnic boundaries, that actually, I said in the show, that actually makes people pull together. You know, we deserve better politicians. We deserve a more objective and transparent political system and media. We need to regulate things like the forest, natural resources, that kind of thing. We need to regulate planning regulation itself. We need to regulate the buildings that are going up in areas that should be of great historical interest. And we need to also protect the patrimony of this country, which is getting lost really, really fast for tourism, because I believe that tourism could be one of the greatest sources of revenue for Romania. I really do. I think it could be right up there with, you know, all the other the main exports and the things that we have here to offer. We also need to make sure that we consolidate the value at this end, rather than exporting huge amounts of timber by boat from Constanza and in lorries, you know, untreated, untouched timber to other people who then turn it into cabinets and sell it for 50 times the price. This kind of thing goes on. Romanians not very good at recognizing the value of things. We have the same thing as I mentioned with the mushrooms. You know, white truffles go to Italy. The Italians claim that they're theirs. Most of the porcini from the Maramurej goes freeze-dried or whatever to Italy, and then they put 500% markup on it and sell it to the restaurants. We should be selling more directly. We should also be processing more in this country because we have so many resources here in Romania, and that could make us one of the richest countries in Europe. But it doesn't, because people take advantage, people want short-term solutions. They're either greedy or they're not educated enough to recognize what they can do with what they have, or they just want to cut corners and get the money fast because they need it because they're poor. And there's a lot of reasons why this is going on. But, you know, Romania has that potential. That's what I've noticed. So you've mentioned these things, they're there, but I think a more optimistic view that people have to stop thinking Romania sucks. It doesn't. It's got so much potential. People are leaving this country because they've given up on it, or they've given up on the political system. You know, if you don't actually try to take a hand in it and make a difference, and for example, go and vote, how many of the people that slag off the politicians even bother to go and vote? I mean, there's probably, you know, a large number of people that can't be bothered. This is how democracy has to work. We have to roll our sleeves up and get involved. If we don't get involved, then we don't have a right to say it's rubbish, because we're not doing anything to try to make it better. So I think these are all valid concerns, but to turn to the positive here, you know, I've highlighted a lot of that already. I think we have tourism. I think we have amazing natural resources, if sustainably managed, that doesn't involve polluting the landscape. And we need to replant forests that we harvest. And we need to harvest in a selective way. You know, we need to build roads, but not always build roads, because people are building roads sometimes with EU money or whatever. And in certain places like where I am, for example, we've got a road going up the hill here, and the road goes to nowhere, you know, and the road is asphalt, and in the winter, you know, it's like this, so it turns into sheet ice, and that means that now we have to have the road cleared and salted every day, or we can't get up it. When it was gravel with a duster and some good tires, I could get up and down that road no trouble. Now we're skidding around the place. You know, there's a plan to put street lamps in a village where people, the locals, go to sleep with a light. You know, most of them, because they have small holdings, and they take their cows to the spring, they come back, they milk them, they go to bed, and they wake up with the dawn. They don't need the street lamps. The tourists who come here don't want street lamps either, because they've just left a place with street lamps to come to a place which doesn't have street lamps, because they want to be in the wild. And so the last thing they want to see is a suburban landscape where they can't view the stars or see the moon. And dark sky tourism is becoming a massive thing in Western countries, in America and in England and France and Germany. People want to go somewhere where they can actually, you know, look up and see the stars and marvel at being in the wild. And so I think, yes, roads are important, but for tourists, not so much in certain areas. We need good roads to get, you know, big systems of roads to get to places. That's starting to happen. But in small villages, sometimes, you know, it's actually quite nice to feel like you're getting off the beaten track. You know, it's quite nice to be able to drive on a dirt road to go and see a monument or go up a mountain. We don't need bitumen or asphalt to take us to the top of that mountain, because, you know, it has to be an adventure, and that actually is bad for the environment anyway. So these things all have to be balanced out, I think, with a certain degree of care and scrutiny.
It took you 14 months to do all the work for Flavors of Romania. And for the small team you have, it was pretty difficult. A lot of work for such a small team. How difficult and challenging was it logistically?
You'd have to ask my partner Juana that, mostly, because she was primarily in charge of the logistics. She did the bulk of the research and come me with ideas, and then we'd agree or disagree together about what made it in and what we weren't going to film or we didn't have time to film. And ultimately, you know, the buck stopped with me. I had to sort of decide where we're going to go. So if we didn't include your place, to anyone listening, it's my fault, not hers. But, you know, you can only go to so many places in each region. But, you know, the work involved, she was on the phone the whole time calling people up, then they weren't available. You know, then they had to go somewhere else, or there was an issue. We had to recalibrate the entire journey just for that particular area, while working on the next one, and the next one, and the next one. You know, a lot of spontaneity needed to happen there. And then, you know, along the way, we'd find places that were just too important, or people, because it's about the people as much as the place. So sometimes I'd go to a place and I'd interview someone, and the interview didn't work. I mean, there were a couple of times when the interview just didn't really work, and I didn't have anything to work with. So I then found another character in a different place who was so brilliant and funny, or clever, or had such a lot to say, that we ended up putting that location in instead. So it's a movable feast. You're thinking on your toes the whole time when you're doing this. But yes, it was 14 months. And we wanted to try to get closer to the end, but the weather, it rains. And then here's the other thing: it's raining, it's windy. I'm on a motorbike. We can't even film sometimes because of the winds, but also because we can't film in the rain. We don't want to film in the rain. You know, we've got all the camera equipment and the drones and everything. We can't do it. So then we have to take 2 days off, and one has to go back and phone everybody up and say, I'm really sorry. Are you still available in 2 days' time? So this is a constant ongoing challenge throughout the entire shoot. And then we got to the end of Maramureş, and of course it was frosty in the mornings. There was ice on the road. It was the harvest, so everyone was in horse and carts, and bringing in the livestock and you know, the food. So there was a lot of caca on the roads. It was very slippery, and on a bike that's extremely dangerous.
But
then
it
you've
was
got
bio.
wet. Yeah, very bio, but not that's yeah, not going to help you. And also the leaves were wet because they're all coming off the trees, and it was cold. So I wanted to try to do Bukovina and maybe then Transylvania in the spring, but we took the decision. It was getting very risky. I'd already skidded the bike a couple of times and nearly come off, so we had to stop and then delay everything till the spring, which I'm really happy about, and it worked well because it meant that we get to show 3 seasons in Romania. Obviously, a bike trip you can't do in the winter, but we added a bit of look at Romania in the winter at the end of that Maramureş episode to show people that it is an all-year-round destination, and that's something that we'll also be making a point of demonstrating in the new campaign on BBC World.
What is the most interesting or the most suitable feature that could sell Romania better on the European tourist market? Is it wilderness?
No, as I said, it's like this. It's like this soup. It's all these different ingredients, but in the right measure. Yes, we have lovely castles, but a lot of them are quite ruined and not as well preserved as they are in other countries like France. But they're still part of the equation, but that's less of a quantity. We have amazing crafts and traditions, which we have more of than other countries do. We preserve them here until recently, you know, extremely well. People are very proud about them, whereas Moldova, Bukovina, Maramureş, Banat Crișana, Dobrogea, you know, Muntenia, wherever, Oltenia. So this is an important part. The crafts and the traditions which still exist here don't exist so much in other places. So I would say that's high up. That's a major ingredient in this recipe we're creating that is Romania. I think the friendliness of the people and the ethnic diversity is also a very important point as well. You know, we as tourists coming to this country, or as a former tourist coming to this country, we see all these different traditions, whether it's the Romanian ones or the Hungarian ones or the Lipovan ones or the Roma or whatever. We see, you know, all the different costumes and the recipes and the music. You know, for example, the Lotar, responsible for being the custodians of Romania's heritage music for hundreds of years, because they used to sing for, you know, for the aristocrats, and they preserved many of Romania's most important folk songs. So there's so much for people to enjoy in different areas. And so we also come into the 9 historic regions that we have. So it's not just the ethnic diversity with the recipes, music, traditions, costumes, etc., but it's also the geographical diversity that you have here as well. We've got the Danube Delta, which is the largest wetland in Europe. You know, we've got the Maramureş, where the landscape is completely different, and that's the architectural landscape, which is another reason why we have to preserve it, because otherwise everywhere will start looking pretty much the same. You know, we're going to have concrete everywhere, and it's going to subsume all the other architectural traditions that used to exist and no longer do. Here in Ruka, around us, we've got these wooden houses, which are very different from the ones you get in Maramureș or Bukovina. People make them like little castles. They have little turrets made with, clad in shitsa, and they're beautiful and romantic, and that's so special. And then you have the stuf in the Danube Delta, where people are thatching with reed, as they are in Crișana as well in places, especially the Slovaks using a reed. So these aspects of the cultural and the geographical locations, with the mountains, the plains, the delta, the wetlands, all these things mean that when you visit Romania, you can have a totally different holiday depending on where you go. And so it's a country that offers numerous destinations that you couldn't find that amount of diversity in another country in Europe. So that's another massive selling point that needs to go into it. And then, of course, the wilderness and the biodiversity. And from that, we can also tease out the cuisine, that we've got a new spate of chefs that you will have seen in the show. And I would have liked to include more, but we hadn't had time. But there are so many great chefs that are coming back from abroad now, and they're taking Romanian ingredients. And, by that, I mean, since I said we have the greatest biodiversity in Europe, that means, think of it, how many wild herbs do we have? How many organic veg do people grow? We're still importing tomatoes from Spain and melons from Turkey, yet we have fabulous melons here, incredible tomatoes that are so much tastier than the ones you find in the supermarket. And for foraging, we have leorda, we have wild mushrooms, we have porcini, truffles, everything, you name it. I mean, there's so many things you can find here. So this presents a great opportunity for gastronomy, and I hope that we'll see in the not too distant future Michelin coming here and doing their first Michelin guide in Romania, because I now know of numerous places that deserve a star, maybe even two in some cases.
Great. Săcălătorim.ro is a collective blog with 85,000 followers. I and my colleagues write about our experience as travelers. Do you have a message for our tribe?
Yeah, please come home. Please come home. I think this is so important. All these people who've traveled, especially, and they've seen lots of great things abroad, and lots of cultures and lots of countries, and probably made some good money along the way. But actually, home is where the heart is. And one thing I've learned is, I'm here because my parents are both dead. My sister I'm close with and see her a lot, but my brother's in Australia and he comes to visit me here. So this is now my home. I'm not leaving behind a family when I come here. But most of the people that leave Romania are leaving behind a family, grandparents who they may never see again, who may die while they're away working in Luton or wherever they're working. And they won't have that quality time with their mums and their dads. And family is so important to Romanians. I know that much more than it seems to be to many other countries. And I would say that the opportunities here now, the reason most people leave are because of opportunities. The opportunities now here in Romania are growing and growing and growing. And there's more reason than ever, especially after Brexit, where things are not looking good in Britain, for example, and Western Europe is not so great. It's harder to make a living. Inflation's going up, mortgages are going up, rent is going up, expenses are going up. So it's harder for people to actually save some money to send home anyway. Whereas if they were to come back with the expertise and the knowledge they've had, and start businesses here and get involved in making Romania great, and then they could spend that time with their parents. We're not here forever. We don't know what could happen tomorrow. And, it's terribly sad. I was filming a TV series in South Africa, and I was in Dahab. And I got a call saying my mum had died of pneumonia, and I thought she'd be okay, and I didn't realize how serious it was. So I came back to see a body lying on a bed for me to pay my last respects to, and I didn't get to speak to her. I mean, I said goodbye to her when I went off, and I said, "There's any problems, I'm coming home, let me know." But she didn't, because she wanted my work to carry on. And Nobody told me till it was too late. And this can happen to anyone listening to this who's abroad, you know, that they can miss that quality time with your parents. They're not around forever. Your family's not around forever. Family is so important. And I think, you know, we need to realize that don't miss out on the time with those people, because when they're gone, they're gone. And so when I say come home, it's not just because of the opportunities that Romania offers, but I think it's also because of the time with the people who gave birth to you, who brought you into this world, and their parents, and your childhood, and all those things that you connect with that make you who you are. It's very important not to become too distant from that, and to actually make the most of it while you can.
So if you could change only one thing about Romania, which one would that be? This one? To ask people to come back?
Well, it's such a huge question. What would I change about Romania? There's so many things I'd like to change about Romania. But it's not really actually what I'd change about Romania. I'd say there's one thing I could change. It would be other people's perception of Romania. That's what I would change. I would change the world's perception of this country, for them to realize how sophisticated it is, what a huge historical heritage it has. You know, if it wasn't for Stephen the Great and Vlad Tepes and others, you know, we might be having, you know, this conversation in Arabic. You know, I mean, there was a coalface between the East and the West. They fought off the Ottomans, you know, and the whole succession of Europe after that, if I'm correct, I think I'm correct in saying this, is due to this area that actually kept Western Europe Christian in a way. And I think we owe, you know, historically, you know, a lot of kind of interest to come here and to see all of these places that actually were so caught up in that. Romania has a history that goes back thousands and thousands of years, and you know, it's a very sophisticated country. So I think that's something I'd like other people abroad to know about and to see, because the general perception, as I've said many times, still among many people, is that Romania is a post-communist, concrete, poverty-ridden place of, you know, kind of orphans and all these cliches that people have had for so many years. It's starting to change now, but it's not changing fast enough. And I would like the world to recognize Romania as a sophisticated country with a huge amount to offer, with fabulous gastronomy and landscapes and culture, and to come here, and by doing so, giving hope to the people who maybe didn't have such a positive view of their own country, to see how foreigners see it, see the wonder in their eyes, you know, when they stand on the top of Buceci Mountain or something like this, or they visit Poinar Castle, where, you know, Tepes's wife threw herself from the battlements. There's so much to do here, and to see and to learn. And I would like to change the global perception that people have of Romania, and give it, you know, its due, for people to do it justice, so people understand what a treasure it is.
I appreciate your initiative to rebrand the logo of Romania as the wild corner of Europe, using the Dacian wolf you wear on your skin as a tattoo. How successful was this idea, and why do you think it was so controversial?
Well, it was very controversial, but the thing is haters will hate, okay? And it stirred a lot of people up. And the people that didn't like it were far more vocal than the people that did. People that did like it were like, or you know, I love this, or they made a sticker of it and they put it on their car, or they put it on the window of their hotel, and they sent us pictures. Or one old lady, Bunica, she stitched a bag. She made a bag with it, handmade. We had thousands and thousands of people saying they loved it. And then we also had, you know, a very kind of derogatory piece in a main national newspaper, which then, you know, pursued this to get feedback from the government as well. And they chose some what seemed like quite partisan graphic designers. One of them looked about 17 years old, and said that it looks like it was done by Mr. Bean, which made me laugh. But you know, we also had some top graphic designers from the UK and other places that looked at it and really liked it, thought it was extremely good. I mean, you've got to realize that whatever you do as a tourism logo is not for Romanians. it's for foreigners, and people may not like it within this country, but the thing is, yes, we want to please them. Obviously, we want people to like it, but we want foreigners to see it and want to come and be interested and intrigued. At the moment, to go back to my previous perception, the cliche of what people think about Romania, the negative stuff, they don't know about the fact it has a massively long history. That it's Dacian and pre-Dacian, Thracian and beyond, and one of the oldest symbols that we have available is the Dacian wolf. And I think that is quite important to have a historical symbol within a logo. And also the mountains are in there, and you've got the flag as the sunrise rising up over the mountains, which denotes a new dawn for this country, a new day, a fresh start. And the call to arms, which is a wild corner of Romania. I know lots of people in Romania were made to stand in the corner, it seems to me, because they wrote to me and said, this was the naughty place. The corner's a bad thing. But this is, again, that's not for them. This is for foreigners, and it's used a lot in tourism guides. It's used a lot by travel journalists, that a corner denotes a place that most people haven't noticed yet, an undiscovered gem, somewhere that's off the beaten track. So the wild corner, and again, wild is a negative connotation in Romania, but for everyone else, wild means untouched, unspoiled, unpolluted, undiscovered. So it's the wild corner of Europe, which basically ties in with everything I've been saying, that this is something that no one else, no other country has. So this idea of the wild corner of Europe, and this is a tourism logo, is something that, having run past international travel journalists who loved it, thought it was great, and also graphic designers abroad who've got loads of experience in their 40s and 50s and 60s, not sort of post-pubescent school leavers who set themselves up as experts, really love. But of course, not everyone's going to like it, and I didn't expect that to happen. I spent €1,000 of my own money on this, and I did it because I felt that actually we need to change the leaf. I think just to say Romania has trees is not enough, and we also have the worst rate of illegal deforestation in Europe as well, so that's maybe a bit ironic, but we have so much more than trees. And the Carpathian garden is not just about a leaf, and it's not a garden really anyway, because no one's mowing the lawn, no one's cutting the hedge, no one's trimming the bear's fur. It's not a garden, it's a wilderness, it's a paradise, an Eden, an unspoilt one still, even now. And I think these are messages that we need to get across, and a tourism logo needs to have a bit more of that in it, I think, to try to evoke an impression in the mind of the viewer that this is a place I would like to visit.
I saw your shelf with your awards. They are valuable, but I think beyond the official recognition, the people smile when they see you, and the open arms when they meet you. It's even more rewarding. And I suggest that your shelf should be bigger, or think about the second one. And your movies about Romania, like Wild Carpathia and the Flavors, are a gift for us. We found they are a part of your soul and your heart, and you inspire us to see our country with different eyes. Thank you for that, and break a leg for your future projects.
Don't say break a leg. You know I've broken my ankle on this one. That's a. Please don't say that. I've still got a broken ankle 2 months on.
The surgery.
Yeah, oh, hang on. All right. Okay. Right. I can match that. Back at you. Hang on a second. Just to show that I wasn't lying. Hang on. Here we go.
Yeah, we are twins.
Yep. There you go. There you go. So,
yeah.
No, I won't be breaking a leg on the next production, I hope. But we're still going to go out there and do everything the same. But I think Romania deserves a little bit of a break, and a few years need to pass before we go back and maybe think about making Flavors of Romania 3. And also bear in mind that it took a long time to find a sponsor, as we did with Vodafone and Unicredit and Metro, to come to help us to make it, because we need a budget first, and that takes as much time as the filming to actually have the meetings and find someone who's kind enough to believe in us. So we'll see, but I'm never say never.
Mulțumim din suflet, mulțumesc, Charlie.